I'm just very excited to have Mike Preston with me right now. And Mike, we're really going to be talking about your accomplishments as a trailblazer
Okay.
here in Carroll County. And certainly being in a studio is nothing new to you.
Right.
So I'd like for you to certainly talk about your variety of jobs or obligations that you have and how those really do describe you or help to describe you as a trailblazer.
Well, primarily, I'm a sports columnist. Okay, I give my opinion on sports, which is it's a great job. I mean, how many people get paid to go around and give commentary on sports? And I basically do the Ravens, but I do some lacrosse. But I also do radio for CBS, and I do TV for Touchdown Baltimore, which is a Masson Channel production. And you know, the best thing about it is you have a voice. And for African Americans, for years, we haven't had a voice in sports. And we had guys like Wendell Smith and Sam Lacey who chronicled the careers of Jackie Robinson. And what people don't like to talk about, you never hear about anyway, is those guys went through the same thing that Jackie Robinson went through. As far as they weren't allowed in hotels, they weren't allowed in certain restaurants, they weren't even allowed in the press box. So I'm honored to kind of follow in the footsteps that they have laid, because what they did was they were the guys who went out, they were the frontline guys. I'm a recipient of what they've done. So now I take it a step forward of not just being a sports writer, but being a columnist. And hopefully in this day where kids don't always like to write, they don't always like to read, and we say, hey, this guy, he's actually out there doing it. And hopefully we can get more African Americans into journalism, not just in sports writing, but journalism, period.
Well, again, you're sort of inspiring me just even hearing, some of the things that you are involved in. Now, this whole idea of journalism and writing and expressing yourself, does it come easy for you, or is there a little labor involved? Or?
No, I'm very opinionated.
So you just share your opinion.
I just say what I want to say. And that's what people want. They want honesty. They want the truth. You know, I try to give people behind the scenes. I try to take them into huddles. You know, this is what's going on, this is what's happening. Because everything that they present, at least in professional sports, it's not always true. So I try to give them into some insights of what's happening. Am I well loved? No, but I am well respected. Because people know I will tell them exactly what I feel and what I believe. And you know, and to go into this business, you know, some reporters go into it because they love sports, which I do. I have a passion for sports. But for African American writers, we also have a cause. You know, it's not just, hey, who scored and what happened. I mean, I helped get John Mackey into the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I was an African American guy who had been there for years, but I just kept beating on it. Why isn't this guy in? Why isn't this guy in? And then you see owners, Michael Jordan. I mean, he's a product of the work that a lot of sports columnists like me have done, of just promoting and saying, why don't you hire these guys? That's what we do. So it's not always just a passion. It's not just about, you know, strategy. For African Americans, it's a cause. And that's what I like doing. And you see this all the time. And the older I get, the stronger the causes get. And that's what keeps me going. Because you can go to anywhere and watch a football game or watch a basketball game, but if you really want to help the cause and help others, then that's the way you look at it. You just can't say, oh, I write sports. That's only part of it. It's what you do behind the scenes to help others, and you can influence others, even in sports writing, and people don't always know that.
And it's interesting, and it sounds like you certainly take what you're doing very, very seriously, although you're having a lot of fun doing it. When you were talking about, you know, how you really are just expressing your opinion, and maybe your opinion always isn't the popular opinion, is it sometimes scary to get that out there, or are you just so convicted that you just feel like, okay, we'll get it there and let it fly and see what happens?
I really don't care what other people think. Because if you do, you're influenced. And if you're influenced, you have an agenda. If you're a columnist, you can't have an agenda. You shouldn't have an agenda. I mean, there are a lot of us in this business who do. I don't have an agenda. And I could care less what people think about me. And my wife will tell you when we're out in public, and there are people who approach me, and some people, when I get up on Monday mornings after a game, I go to an airport and they ask me, "Are you Mike Preston?" Sometimes I just say, "It depends." It really depends on what you want. I'm not going to argue with you right now because I'm getting on a plane. But for the most part, let's look at it this way. And I always tell people this. You get paid, or I get paid, to watch fat men beating each other up on Sundays. That's a great living. All right, you stay in the best hotels, you fly around the country, you meet some of the most exciting, intriguing people. The only thing I could think better than this is to be a pastor, and I haven't been called yet because I got way too many issues to do that. But that's the only thing better than what I do. So if there's some kid out there right now who's saying, "Hey, I'm looking for something," and for African Americans, we need to get away from all we want to do is play basketball, football. There's so many other avenues to keep you close to the sport. Journalism, radio, great avenues for African Americans to get into and do this. And all you have to do is look on TV now. And I talked to you about, Wendell Smith and Sam Lacey. Turn on your TV now and look at the guys, the African Americans who are on ESPN, and that came from them, all right? And all I did was be the middle link and now push it a little bit further along. Because when I came along, basically they were telling you, we'll hire African Americans, but you have to prove yourself. So I was a clerk for 5 years. So they brought in these other people who jumped ahead of me. They weren't better than me. They didn't have to prove themselves. But those opportunities weren't available. And now, hey, we don't have to be high school writers anymore. Hey, we're hiring guys straight out of college that go right on. And Michael Wilbon, who works for ESPN, he basically got into business the same time I did. And he became a columnist for the Washington Post, and then later went to ESPN. And we see each other. We're living the dream, man. Because where we started and where we are. And yeah, we were some of the guys who, we didn't lay the groundwork, but we followed up and we opened that extra door to get us beyond entry-level positions.
And again, I just think that that's wonderful. And, as I'm listening to you, I just think of all the sports columnists and journalists that my husband listens to. And, there were times when I'm like, who's that person? Boy, he's very opinionated. Right. Well, this one particular person I've just grown to love, and I look forward to hearing his comments, especially over controversial type issues, because as you're saying, this person is also very opinionated. He shoots straight, and once he gets it out there, it's out there, and you can like it or lump it. But,
right.
That's how it feels.
It's kind of like Charles Barkley. He's controversial because he says what's on his mind. 15, 20 years ago, you could not say those things because they were politically not correct. But you're now at the point to say, hey, if you're covering the NBA and it's 98% black players, then you should have some people in the media who represent black players. And you get guys like that. And that's a great thing, and that shows you how far that we've come, but there's still so much more room to grow in as far as African American, as NFL head coaches, owners in the NBA, African Americans in baseball, because before it was almost 40% African American. Now blacks have gotten out of the sport. Now we're trying to get back into the sport. And not only that, but it opens other avenues as far as possibly playing lacrosse, which we were talking about earlier. Those are some things that, I have access to because I do this for a living. But, it's great when you can have a Dave Petromalo from Hopkins come to my high school in Newtown where I coach and talk to my kids. It's great to see those kids that never played, were never exposed to this sport at all. And then they go to college. To me, that's almost as efficient and productive as being a sports writer. And sometimes I look back and say, maybe I should have been a coach. Maybe he would have had that impact on kids. But either way, I mean, I've been blessed. There was only two things I wanted to do with my life. Well, three. I wanted to play pro football and I got cut. All right. But the next thing was sports writing. The next thing was coaching. That's what I do.
Well, sounds like, again, you've certainly fulfilled some dreams there.
Yeah.
And as you're talking about coaching at Newtown, again, maybe we didn't specifically say what team you coach, but I think that that's quite interesting. So talk about your team that you're coaching and connect that with your own personal family life, because, again, we know there are some connections.
See, I'll tell you this because I love telling this story. When I started coaching, actually in Carroll County, at Gamber, my son was the only black kid on the team, all the way through. And I didn't know anything about lacrosse. I just started getting into it just to spend time with my son. And it was fascinating because there were no African Americans playing the sport, and then all of a sudden, I'm the head coach. And then we started winning championships. And not because we were great, but just because we had kids who worked hard. And then that's always been my philosophy. And I like being the underdog. I love being an underdog. It's the greatest role in sports. So anyway, after I get done, you know, what am I going to do with my life? Because my kid is now going to college. And what am I going to do with this time? So my wife keeps saying, why don't you go coach at a high school? But why don't you go coach at an African-American high school? I'm like, ooh, that's a tough one. So I go over to Newtown to coach, and that's in Owings Mills. And they had many, many problems. I mean, the black school, they won like 4 games. They've won 4 games in 4 or 5 years before I got there. And when I went to talk to the athletic director, he actually said to me, so you actually want to be the head coach of Newtown lacrosse? I'm like, yeah, I do. So we had a lot of problems first year. Amazing amount of problems. I mean, there were times I was going to quit. I mean, in the first year we were 2-8. And I was going to stop. And then next year we go 8-2. The year after that we go 9-1, and we win our share of the county championship. I mean, and these are kids who are African Americans who never played the sport, and we played on a varsity level. And now from that point, I mean, last year we went 7-4-1, and they moved us up a division because we were getting pretty good. So we can't put them back down there again, and that's a great thing for us. It's a great challenge. So we go 7-4-1. We have 10 kids in college. And before I got there, we never had any kids go to college. Usually we got the troublemakers who were cast off from other sports and said, oh, let's go play lacrosse, big physical guys. And no, we had to teach them how to play lacrosse. And I had 2 great coaches. Coach Baker, who's still with me, who's a school teacher. And Terry Kimmel was my assistant coach, who passed away about 1.5 years ago with cancer. But we were into that, of building and letting African-American kids know there are other avenues. There are other ways to get into college, to use this as a stepping stone. And I'm not going to say you're going to make $1 million, you're going to get a big scholarship, but what I'm saying is it's an opportunity to get some money. It's an opportunity to get into college, to further your education. And when you're done, you have a degree, and no one could take that away from you. You know, they can take everything else away from you. They can take your house, they can take your car, but they cannot take away that education. And it's working out, and I'll keep doing it until I get a little too old. Right now, I'm just old, but I'm not too old yet. You know what I mean? And I hope I don't get to that point because it keeps me young.
I was going to say, and you sound so passionate concerning it, so I'm sure that passion helps to carry you along as well
Right.
as being a coach. Now, are there any things you're doing to sort of get kids started prior to getting at the high school level? I mean, I know you mentioned how your son was involved as a youngster going through the Gamber League, but being in Newtown, I mean, are there some schools that channel into your high school that you can maybe reach down to as far as rec kinds of involvement? Or
We're trying to build recreation programs, which is pretty tough because as the high school coach, I cannot coach those teams. And with my schedule, as far as being a sports columnist, I don't have time to do that in the fall. But we do various clinics. We do various functions in the community. And when I'm talking about Randallstown, Owings Mills, even Reisterstown, to get kids into it. And the best thing about it is once you reach those core group of players that get out and they go back and they say, wow, we had a great time, they tell the other kids. And now we have a pretty good base, and we may even have a JV for the first time. And if we get a JV, and I'll say it right now, if we get a JV, I'm winning a state championship.
Ooh,
all right, I'm going to tell you that right now. I'm winning a state championship because every year we start from scratch because kids are never played the sport. But no, if we can get that in place, and we raise our own money. I mean, most of the money at the school is geared toward basketball and football. We go out and raise our own money, buying sweatsuits, letting these kids know, hey, okay, you come out, you look good, all right? And remember that. People think just because you know the X's and O's and you got the studs. No, the first thing in a kid's mind is one, you got to show them you love them, all right? I mean, you can get on him, but you also got to pick him up when he's down. And two, make him look good. Kids don't want to look bad. I mean, we had terrible uniforms. We had wooden sticks. The uniforms didn't match. And it took us 2 years. But when I got new uniforms, you'd be surprised the way kids go, oh, my God, we got new uniforms. We're going to be the best-looking team out there. So, no, we're working. It's a work in progress, but got to stick with it. I mean, I love the results. And I don't have to get 50 kids. This is not boys Latin. If I get one, and I've gotten my one, and I've gotten 9 others, if I can get a couple more, then we've succeeded because that's 9 or 10 less kids that don't have that education, that are on the streets, and now they're playing lacrosse, doing something productive.
Do you think there will come the day when we turn on a TV channel and see our African American kids, you know, with their lacrosse sticks, having commercials rather than always seeing the basketball or football players being lifted up for our kids?
Oh, it's getting to that point. I don't never know if it's ever going to be that strong, but I think it's getting to that point where you're seeing more and more. But we also need more role models. It's enough just to say, hey, go play, okay? And you see a lot of the white coaches teaching the African American kids. But what about the African Americans teaching the African American kids? That's what we need to see more of. And the sport is still kind of foreign, but you see it more and more in Baltimore City, okay, because their guys are getting involved. But we got to get it more involved in Baltimore County and Carroll County. And the good thing is, I still stop and I'll see a good rec game. I'll get out and watch the game, whether it's football, basketball, whatever. But you see more and more African American kids in Carroll County playing. And that's a good thing. And my kids still come back and they still do various clinics up here if they get invited. Because they knew we were a tight-knit team. And those kids we still keep in contact and they'll come back and help out. And that's what you want, you know, that's the start.
You've certainly paved the way for your daughter because I understand she in her own right certainly has been very instrumental in highlighting lacrosse and getting our kids involved, and in fact is pretty much doing things now at the national level to help inspire others to move into that sport, if so inclined.
Right. She was a trailblazer in many, many ways. One, she was a goalie. I mean, and there aren't very many African American goalies. And then she went on and became a college coach. And then she goes and gets this position with U.S. Lacrosse. And what she can do is now she can be the liaison between the African American community and the sport itself. And she has this position. She's had it for about a year now. She loves it. I mean, she's very happy. And in their family, lacrosse is a big sport. And it just kind of happened. It was the kids loved it. The father got involved, and you know what happens is dad gets involved and says, let's go out in the yard and play some lacrosse. Okay, and everybody wants to play. And then you get into it a little bit and you get the other kids over. And I think the important thing, one of the most important things for her was I was involved in teaching and coaching and helping challenge her as a little bit, not as just as a player, but as a writer, because she wanted to get into journalism, which she did for a little while, which she majored in college, and then she got into coaching. And we still have these conversations, and she's as opinionated as I am.
Good.
She will watch a football game, and I have to get up and leave because she yaps all the time. She just constantly, there's criticism, critiquing. I'm the sports columnist in the family, but she wants to take that on. God bless her. She's very good at what she does, and she has a lot of fun. And before it's over, she will open a lot of doors for young black kids to get involved in this sport. And again, it's a great way to get a college education.
Well, Mike, certainly know that you too are opening a lot of doors for our youth here in Carroll County. So certainly we thank you for your contributions and for all the many ways that you are just blazing trails for all of us.
Well, you know, the thing is that perseverance is key. Mm-hmm. Because as we talked earlier, I mean, I never faced some of the struggles of the early African Americans in this, but you can't be a successful black man in America and not face some sort of discrimination of even if I remember going to Kansas City for a job as a sports writer there, and I basically found out I was a quota guy, and the sports editor was supposed to take me out to dinner. He never took me out to dinner. His colleague took me out to McDonald's. Okay? Some people, you can quit. I won't quit. I worked at the Essex Times, and I got a promotion. And the day I went out to celebrate, I came back after lunch. They had removed my desk and took my stuff and put it in the floor. I mean, those are the things you cannot let deter you. You know, you can't crawl up in the fetal position. You got to keep going. And you know, at that time, I didn't know what the Lord had prepared for me. I was just trying to find a job and get started. But, you know, He had better plans for me. Like, just be patient, be quiet, rock steady, and we'll get you where you want to go. And I'm here because little did I know 25, 30 years from then, I'd be sitting here today talking about how great the Lord has blessed me, my family, gave me a great wife. I did not know all of those things were in His plans, but that's through Him and perseverance. So if there's one thing any young African-American kid is watching today and take away, keep your faith, have perseverance, and if you want to be the best at anything you want to do, you go for it. If you want to be the best policeman, be the best policeman. You want to be the best fireman, be the best fireman. And if you want to be the best sports writer, be the best sports writer.
And don't mind sharing your opinion, whatever you do. Just know that is your opinion. So certainly it's been a pleasure, and just hearing again how all of the obstacles that you referred to certainly could have been enough just to cause you to fold up and say that's it, but you pretty much used all of your obstacles as stepping stones to really motivate you to continue to seek your goals. So certainly that's what we want all of our youth to go for.
Well, you know something, a lot of times African Americans use excuses and reasons for not getting things done. You know, I come from a one-parent family, we didn't have enough money, we were poor. To me, that's fuel of just say, I don't want to be poor anymore. Okay, when I get older, I'm going to have a good family. I'm going to put in that time. I'm going to work hard. Those are great lessons to remember. Don't cry, as Brian Billick used to say, don't crawl up in the fetal position. Don't cry in your beer. All right? You go and get started and take that as motivation and do the best you can do. And that's what I've always done, and I will continue to do that. And those are the lessons I teach my kid as far as lacrosse. Hey, guys, they said we couldn't win. Well, look at us now. Who's winning now? So no one can ever tell you what you cannot do.
Turn that cannot into a can-do kind of attitude and just go for it.
Right on.
So again, thanks, Mike. It's been my pleasure.
All right, thank you.
Okay. time, I have Kim Duppins Stanton with me, and we're here to have a conversation, Kim, about you being a trailblazer here in Carroll County. And I'd like for us to begin by talking about a subject. I'm sure it's near and dear and passionate to your heart, but one that you have certainly made a lot of strides in here in our county, and I'm referring to your days as a basketball player here in Carroll County. So can we talk a little bit about that concerning your career at your high school?
When I first started high school in 9th grade, that was the first year of girls basketball. So it was different, and it was something that I had played in rec. So I knew that it was something that I liked and I was interested in. And through my career there, I was very fortunate to have a coach that was really knowledgeable about the game, and that was Richard Eversole. And so he kind of took me under his wing and kind of pushed me and taught me a lot and kind of molded me to be able to I guess get a little better at the game that I like to play. So we went from being a really bad team my first year to my senior year. We were able to go to the state playoffs, which was really exciting for us to have a girls basketball team going down to states and play. And so that was something that obviously was something that we were really proud of as a team, and it was a big accomplishment, I think, for us and for the school.
Did I hear you correctly in that this was the beginning in 9th grade? That was the beginning of women's basketball here in our county?
In Carroll County. Wow. It was the first time that they had fielded a team. And I played, and my cousin Nina, who was also tall, so we both played and liked the game. And so we started together, and by the time it was my senior year, we formed a really good team. So I think under Dick Ebersole's kind of guidance, he was very instrumental in me being able to get a college scholarship. He did a lot of the letter writing, a lot of sending out tapes of games in that time to kind of spark some interest and things like that. So he was real instrumental in me being able to get a scholarship, being able to play basketball.
I think it's pretty fascinating to hear that as a trailblazer, again, you were certainly paving the way for future young women then to participate in basketball at the high school level. What position did you play?
Most of the time I played center.
Okay.
At some points I would play forward as well. But for most of my career, it was in high school. I played the center position.
I see. And to start from the freshman year to get to the point of being a senior and having such a career or record that year that you were able to go to the States. How did you all do at the state level?
We did really well. We were runners up. We made it to the championship game, and that's where we were defeated. But it was a lot that we accomplished along the way. Of course, at that time, when you lose, it's kind of heartbreaking because that part of your playing career is done. But when you look back on it, it was pretty remarkable of the things that we were able to accomplish.
Oh, it sounds like it was. And then you said that you were able then to go from high school to a college on a basketball scholarship?
Yes, I went on a full scholarship, which was really nice, and my parents really liked that. They thought in the beginning it was Memphis, and so I didn't know a lot about Memphis, but I had looked at the team a little bit, and usually you go and visit, but I had read a little bit about the team, and I just kind of said, okay, that's where I'm going to go, sort of thing. And I think it was one of the best decisions that I could have made. The team itself was very much like a family unit, and so that kind of felt really good being so far away from home for me. So in that situation, it was a learning experience, I think, my first year that I was there. Just a different kind of game, a lot more physical game. I was pretty big, I thought, when I played in high school, but to get there and, play a forward more than a center and have somebody playing with you that's 6'5". So a lot of bumps and bruises that first year. But again, as I kind of played and my talent kind of developed a little more, we were able to do really well. We played in the NCAA championship. We went to the Elite 8. I was even named to that region's Kodak All-American team my senior year. So it was a very, I I say special kind of experience for me. You know, I learned a lot, I grew a lot. You know, it was still a game that I loved to play. I knew I had to do, you know, my schoolwork too to be able to play this game. So you have to balance everything out, and I think that's the biggest thing. You know, when you play college athletics, it's just a balance. You know, my number was retired, which I thought was a really special honor. So it hangs in the field house. And they see pictures and things like that. You can see it hanging in the field house. I still follow them and, you know, keep up with them to kind of see how they're doing. So it was a really special time. It's a really special time.
Well, Kim, certainly there must be a lot of accolades that have come your way to have had your jersey retired at Memphis State. Mm-hmm. Tell me something about those records or your accomplishments while you were there at Memphis.
I know that I was in, at the time I was there, it was probably about the top 5 with scoring and with rebounding. Now, of course, over the years, it's kind of dropped a little bit, but I do believe it's still in the top 10, top 20 kind of range. So that's still there. I was also, I think maybe 2003, I was inducted into that school's Hall of Fame, which was really special because my entire family got to go to Memphis. We kind of all went together, and we kind of shared in that experience. So that was a really special time as well.
That is wonderful. That is wonderful. So now we've sort of talked about your high school career, and we've listened to your wonderful accomplishments there at Memphis State University. So then what happened once college was finished?
Once college was finished, you know, I returned home after I graduated, and I went back to Francis Scott Key as a freshman coach in the beginning to coach the girls basketball team. So I went from being the freshman coach the first year to the varsity coach. So I had a core group of girls that were, you know, really competitive. You know, they kind of had that kind of same edge. They liked the sport. You know, they were aggressive, and I did really well there. So that by the time they were seniors, we were able to go back to the state championship again. So we still didn't win it, but it was still a nice experience to be able to coach a group of girls and kind of take them and let them share the same kind of experiences that I had when I played a sport in high school.
So you really, right out of college, went right away into giving back to your community and sharing your talents. And
yes.
Again, just blazing the trail for others. So I think that's pretty remarkable. And to hear that your team as well got to the state level during the playoffs is very, very fascinating. So I'm sure you must have a lot of accolades there at Scott Key as well. We talked about your jersey at the college level. What happened at Scott Key as far as you leaving, you know, an impression there?
I know that I'm not sure about the records because I'm not really sure about how, you know, detailed they were kept at the time that I played, but I know that I was as well inducted into their kind of the high school Hall of Fame, which is a kind of special honor. So when I go back now, that's actually my son goes there now. It's his first year, and so you know, our picture, because he wouldn't, I had to hold him at the time to do the picture to keep him from making the scene, but our pictures are in the actual Hall of Fame there. So, you know, that's kind of really special, you know, when I go back to the school for that. You know, it's pretty nice, I think, to have that kind of recognition of what you've done in that kind of community, that setting.
So you've certainly left your impression there then. So once you coached the varsity basketball team at Scott Key, you said you did that for 4 years. So then where did you head after that?
After that, I had a job opportunity to coach at Northern Illinois University as an assistant women's coach for a Division I program. So I did that. And I did that for about 4 or 5 years. It was something I really enjoyed that time, and being able to just focus on coaching. It was kind of really special, really nice. I did a lot of the recruiting, so a lot of phone calls to kids who were still playing in high school, kind of making that contact kind of thing, is what I did, as well as, you know, assisting, you know, in game times and practice and that. And I worked mainly with the forwards and the centers, the 4-5s, on the team. So, you know, it was another great experience. We went back and played in the, you know, NCAA tournament, which is every goal, I think, goal when you're trying to play. That's the height that you want to be able to reach. So, you know, we didn't make it quite as far, but we had a really successful season playing, you know, in that tournament again. So
So that's very fascinating. Okay, so now assistant coach for 4 years there at Northern Illinois University. And what was your next path?
Okay, my next step was I came back to Carroll County again. It seems like I'm always coming back home. Family is very important to me. You know, we're very, very close-knit family. And so I came back to Carroll County and I worked in an adult daycare center because that's what my degree was in, rec therapy. So I did that, you know, for several years. And while doing that, I decided that I wanted to go back to school and get my teaching certification. And so that's what I did. And then right now, to the present, from then to present, I am teaching elementary school, 5th grade at Freedom Elementary School. And so I've enjoyed that. I think that's a special age of children. They have some independence, but you can still kind of instruct them and kind of guide them into where you want them to be so they can be successful. And so I enjoy that time working there.
So again, now you're certainly making a lot of contributions then as far as our educational system is concerned, and you know, hopefully showing others that certainly the doorway can be open for them as well as far as teaching is concerned. Are you still involved in sports and basketball at this time?
For the last, I'd say, 7 years, I've coached my son's rec team with West Carroll. So I've coached a boys team. We've been very successful. Last year we did very well. We made it to I think the game, I guess it would be a semifinal game, so right before the championship game. We lost that game, but I have been working with boys, and so that's you know, another joy. I think basketball is basketball. It doesn't matter whether it's a girls or a boys team. I think it's the same basic skills every I'll say student of the game needs to have in order to develop and, you know, to be better. So I wanted to make sure that, you know, they had the fundamentals down, and then, you know, from that just build upon that. So it's been very successful, and I've enjoyed doing that with them.
Geez, so how does your son feel about having mom as
coach? You know, it's funny. He says he doesn't mind. It's okay with him. I guess I'm just as hard on him as I am, you know, the other boys. I expect a lot of them. You know, if we went over it and, you know, I taught it to you and we practiced it, then, you know, game time, you know, it's your job to execute. So, you know, I kind of hold them to a high standard, but I don't think it's anything that not attainable for them. You know, I just want them to be the best that they're going to be if they're going to play the game. And I think I get that from my father, because he was kind of pushing is, you know, if you're going to play, he would always say, you know, don't play like a girl. If you're going to play, just play. You know, play like the boys play. You know, and that sort of thing. And so that kind of family kind of push and connection, I think is where I got a lot of my drive from.
I see. And certainly being a member of the Carroll County community, usually the name Duppins has been associated with basketball as far as I can remember. I mean, I have always heard about Duppins playing basketball. So you have had other family members participate in the sport. I know you mentioned your one cousin, but others as well? Yes,
I have an uncle who played, Charles Duppins, who also played at Key. You know, and of course I was a lot younger at the time, but when I went there, the first thing, and they hear your name is, says, oh, are you related to Charlie, or some people call him Johnny? And I was like, oh yeah, that's my uncle. And so that I know that he had a really good legacy there with the boys basketball program. And so that was kind of nice to have that kind of connection to kind of work off of, that name recognition. And I know that I remember when he was inducted into the Carroll County Hall of Fame, and so we all went to kind of support him as a family, you know, and it seemed like such an honor to be able to hear him talk about him playing, because in a family setting, he may or may not talk about it very much, but, you know, that night he got to kind of explain, you know, his feelings and some of the memories that he had. And so it was really special and kind of really touching to be able to kind of support him when he was inducted.
And I bet he probably felt that it was a very, very special kind of relationship with you as well, then, seeing that you sort of continued that legacy.
Yes, you know, he was there when I was inducted in as well. So, you know, it's a kind of like a family connection. I said, I think we're the only, you know, uncle and, you know, niece combination that's in the Carroll County, you know, Hall of Fame. So, you know, I feel that's a very special connection. I think it's a wonderful kind of legacy to kind of leave, you know, for our family members, that, you know, we're both in there, and you can read about, you know, our accomplishments there. It's just things that were kind of important in how we felt about, you know, playing the kind of game that we were kind of blessed with, really. You know, this talent, you know, it's a God-given talent, and he allowed us to be able to use it and kind of walk through this life and kind of leave a positive impact.
Well, again, your life has exemplified that you certainly, used your skills and your talents very, very well. I'm just very, very proud of these accomplishments that you've shared with us today. And again, you certainly have blazed many a trail for those who have followed. So now, is there anything else that you would like to add or share concerning being a trailblazer here in Carroll County?
I think that if you have the desire to do something, and you have the belief and the faith that you can do it, and I think that God blesses everybody with talents. It's up to you to use them. And so I just think that you need to tap into the talents that you have and just try to be the best at that, whatever it is, whether it's going to be, a teacher, or whether it's going to be, in the business world and you're having your own business, whatever the desire is of your heart. I think that you really just need to tap into that and just strive to be the best at it that you can be.
Well, certainly, Kim, I thank you for all of your again, myriad accomplishments and ways that you've certainly paved the way for others. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good morning. We're here with Mr. Tim Johnson, who is a black rodeo cowboy. Mr. Johnson, we are so happy to have you today. Can you tell us about the Black Rodeo Cowboys? What was that about? How did they get started? And were they accepted by the white cowboys?
Well, I mean, there have been black rodeo cowboys since there's been rodeos.
Okay.
There's a real big population in Texas, Oklahoma, down south. I guess when they first got started, it was a little different for a lot of people, but there's not very many up here on the East Coast,
Okay.
up here in Maryland.
Mm-hmm. And where do you usually hold your rodeos?
I've rodeoed all over the U.S. and Canada, mostly in the Northeast, from Maine to Florida, as far away as Texas, the Midwest. I mean, there are rodeos held all over the country.
So how long you've been a rodeo cowboy?
I've competed for 20 years as a bull rider, and now I'm a clown.
No.
Yeah.
Are you serious? So you're the ones that jump in front of...
Well, no, there's two different types of
Okay.
clowns. There's what everybody thinks when they think of rodeo clown is it's what we call the bullfighters.
Okay.
They're the guys that distract the bulls after the cowboy falls off. Now,
Okay.
I did that for about 10 years, off and on for 10 years, and while I was riding. And then there's what they call the barrel man. That's the guy with the can, and that's what I do. I don't have a can, but you tell jokes and skits. You're pretty much fluff. You fill the time, the dead spots in the show.
Okay, all right. So give me a joke.
Okay. Duck walks into a bar now.
Okay.
No, I mean you just tell jokes. It's getting a little tougher now to tell the jokes because everybody is so sensitive.
Oh, okay.
There's a lot of stuff we can't say, but
Right.
yeah, that's what I do now.
Okay. Now, when you now, is there a history of cowboys in your family?
No,
No. So you're the first one.
I'm the first one.
So what got you started?
What got me started? I guess you could say two things. I started working on a little farm owned by Rob Gosnell, the Gosnell family, when I was, I want to say about 7.
Okay.
Taking care of cows and pigs and stuff like that. And then one day, my mom called us in the house, and Cheyenne Frontiers Day was on TV.
Okay.
And we sat down and watched it. And right there, I decided that's what I wanted to do. I had for a kid I went to school with. He and his dad were team ropers, and right after
what team roping.
Team roping is it's called head and heeling. 2 cowboys, 2 horses, 1 steer. The first guy drives out, ropes the steer around the horns, and he turns him, and then the second guy comes in and ropes the back feet.
Okay.
And that's what they did. And we started hanging out over at the roping pen, me and a couple of other kids, and we had already started getting on calves. We were probably 10, 9, 10, we were getting on these calves. We hadn't a clue what we were doing. But we started hanging out at the roping pen, and they had one little buck and shoot. When they got finished roping, they let the kids get on the steers.
Okay.
And that's pretty much how I got started.
Okay. Then did you have a mentor to guide you step by step in competitions and, you know, getting yourself started into the different areas that
Well, I guess you could say the people that got me started would be the Williams, John W., and his son Junie. They were the ones that got me started. I mean, they hauled me to the shows, kind of got me in there. That's what I guess you could say, if there was a mentor, it would be him.
Now, are they black rodeo cowboys?
No, they were white.
Okay,
Yeah.
all right, okay. Now let me ask you this: why would you call the black rodeo cowboys a trailblazer, African American trailblazers?
I don't know if you call them trailblazers. Like I said, they've been black cowboys since the beginning of time. After, you know, the whole cowboy era only lasted a few years. It was pretty much after the Civil War was over. There wasn't any work in the South. There were a lot of cattle running loose, and they needed beef up north. So that's pretty much where the whole cowboy thing started. Guys gathering cattle, driving them from the down south up to the north because they didn't have any money. And there were a lot of freed slaves at that point that were out of work. So, you know, they jumped in and trailed cattle, and that's pretty much where the black cowboy started.
Now, are you the only black rodeo cowboy in Carroll County that you know of?
Carroll County, I would say there were a few other guys that rodeoed for a little while, but Carroll County, I would say there's a few of us around, put it that way. There's a couple of guys up in Pennsylvania and a few guys down from Virginia, and there's a few around, but Carroll County,
You would be the only one.
I guess you could say that, yeah.
That's great. That is really great. Any injuries that you care to talk about?
Oh my gosh. Yeah. I've broken both ankles, torn ligaments, tendons, both ankles, both knees, fractured my femur, open compound fracture of the tib and the fib, dislocated my shoulder, hyperextended my elbow, hyperextended my knee. Bruised, broke, or cracked every rib I have at least once. You know, stuff, broken fingers, broken hands, broken toes, stuff like that, yeah.
And it's still your passion.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Mr. Johnson. Anything else you would like to add about the Black Rodeo Cowboys?
Well, if anybody wants to see them,
Yeah.
they come to, there's an association called the Bill Pickett Rodeo Association.
Okay, I've heard of that.
Every year they come down to Upper Marlboro at
Okay.
the Equestrian Center in Upper Marlboro,
What time of year?
September.
Okay,
And they do a show there. I rodeoed with them for about 3 years.
okay.
And well, that's about it, I guess.
Any plans for retirement?
I may retire this year.
Oh, okay.
I may. You know, it comes down to what I do now. It comes down to whether I get work.
Okay.
You know, I'm a independent contractor, what you
Okay.
consider. So, and the work, I mean, I've got a real job now, so I can't travel like I used to.
Right,
So
right.
it's limited to how far I can go. So, but yeah, this year might be the last year. The body's kind of breaking down on me. So it might be, well, as long as they keep hiring me, I'll keep coming back.
Great. Well, thank you very much.
Okay.
This morning we are talking with some trailblazers here in Carroll County, and I have Eboni Preston-Laurent with me this morning. And Eboni, you are native of Carroll County?
Yes, 04 Westminster High School graduate and lived in Westminster since I was young, so.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay, well, very good. As we think about trailblazers, would you be able to share how you would be known as a trailblazer here in Carroll County?
Well, I think I have a unique perspective because I wouldn't consider myself a trailblazer per se. I think I have a while to go before I win that title, and the reason why I say that is because, you know, I've grown up watching my parents and my grandmothers and the work that they've done in Carroll County and the local community, and to be honest, they're the ones that have really blazed the trail. I'm kind of just following in the footsteps that they've set for me, and what it's done really is given me this kind of internal obligation to meet the standard that they set for a Carroll County trailblazer. And I work towards that knowing that I have big shoes to fill, and I've just been proud of what they've done. And it's almost like I have that internal footprint to say I need to be where they are, if not higher, to push myself, because they've done the work for me and I need to just walk through that door. So that's kind of pushed me to continue to try to work towards their success and their accomplishments, and to reach what a lot of Trailblazers have done in Carroll County, and to continue to open doors for others. So that's really what my thoughts are about those Carroll County Trailblazers and what they've done, and hopefully I can be the same eventually down the road and do some great stuff that they've done.
So you are certainly one who has benefited from former Trailblazers,
Definitely.
as you've indicated. But I also hear you saying that you are also interested in opening the pathway or creating opportunities for others to follow. So I found out that you have been recently named as one of the 50 women to watch in 2014 by the Baltimore Sun. Can you speak on why you were selected as one of those 50 women to watch in 2014?
Yeah, I mean, I think that that award was a blessing and something that is a great accomplishment that I've been proud of. And one of the things that I do is, as a senior manager of diversity and inclusion at US Lacrosse, I am one of the first and the only person that really has a full-time priority to create opportunities for people of color to participate in lacrosse. So that's a big deal for me, growing up in Carroll County, where lacrosse was kind of a mild sport, and it's starting to get really popular. There weren't a lot of African Americans playing in the sport, and a big thing for me is that I want to create those opportunities for others, so that youth coming into the game now can say, look, I can play lacrosse, I see a person of color that looks like me, that I identify with, and therefore they feel like they fit in this game. And that's a big thing to me, because lacrosse opened a lot of doors for me as a student athlete, and I want to be able to give that same opportunity for other young African Americans and other people of color to be in that sport and feel like they can accomplish the same goals and opportunities coming through the same type of pipeline that I did.
Okay, so speak about your pipeline. You started playing lacrosse here in Carroll County. At what age, and were you one of those ones that would have been along the fields at Friendship Valley and other places here in the county?
Yeah, we started playing, I think I started playing about, probably about 10 years old, right at the end of elementary school. I started picking up, it just started at Gamber Smallwood, and our team was awful. We just started compared to the Towsons and Baltimore. They've had lacrosse for a long time. So we're really excited to get it started in the community. And for a long time, I was the only black person on my team. And it was difficult because you didn't really identify with anyone. You'd look at the lacrosse magazines and you couldn't really identify with a lot of people that were in the game because they didn't look like you. So you didn't really have that representation. So it was always a goal of mine to kind of create that pathway and for people to be able to identify the sport because of me and because of others that are in the sport that get more notoriety, and people can see their success, not just based on their talent, but also knowing that they're proud of the fact that they're African American and receiving such success in the sport. So that was a big thing to me, and I stated, and my parents have always been very impactful in a sense that they didn't limit me, because what we talk about a lot at my job is black people see football, they see basketball, they see track, and those are traditionally the avenues they go to play sport, and they don't think sometimes outside of that. So lacrosse is considered non-traditional for them. But my parents always pushed me to be engaged in a sport or an activity that was special and important to me, regardless of if there were 100 black people playing it or if there were 2. So that was a huge thing for me, is to say, if I can do it, you can do it and be successful in it, but then make sure you pay it forward and stay engaged in the sport and give opportunities for others who are going through the same challenges and successes that you are.
So what was the highest level that you played lacrosse?
I played at St. Bonaventure University, a Division I school in kind of the middle of nowhere in New York. And then I went on to coach collegiate lacrosse, did my master's, and was a graduate assistant in Massachusetts for a couple of years, and was a head lacrosse coach at Sweetbriar College in Central Virginia. And so I had a lot of success there, and I really enjoyed what I was doing, and being able to impact student athletes was very important to me to give back to the sport. And then I went on to work at US Lacrosse, which is what I'm doing now, and what I enjoy, because I really get that opportunity to be passionate about my work every day, which is great.
So then once you moved beyond Carroll County, you found that there were other black athletes involved in lacrosse?
Yeah, and it's been great to see that. People always look at lacrosse and think it's, a rich, white, elitist sport. And, I'm the living proof that it's not. But two, I work in Baltimore City, right by Johns Hopkins University. And it's more prevalent than ever, I think, to see a kid walk into the school bus with his lacrosse stick with a couple of friends. And just seeing how it's progressed has been amazing. And I think years down the road, we'll continue to see kids of all different colors and all different backgrounds competing in lacrosse. And that's my goal. But, it's been a great opportunity to see the game grow so quickly locally at Baltimore City, but across the country, to have kids pick up sticks in urban areas and to have success. So that's been my main goal and what I work for every day. So.
Okay, it sounds very, very interesting, and it certainly sounds like you're making an impact. Can you speak on what contributions or what opportunities you might be opening up for our youth right here in Carroll County?
Well, we do a lot all over Maryland. We're nationally based, so we also do try to focus on a lot of different things in a lot of different areas. But specifically in Carroll County, I try to get out here a lot and work with some of the club organizations and in the local community just to volunteer and engage with people that are participating in sports. So we just really try to make sure that we're giving that same messaging, and particularly in Carroll County, since it's near and dear to me growing up here, that lacrosse is for everyone, and you should feel that this is an inclusive environment in which you can participate. So I try to get up here a lot and engage in some of the things that are going on at Carroll Community College or West Middle School, if there's tryouts or different events, and just make sure that I'm showing my face and getting out and kind of just developing those relationships with the local lacrosse community in Carroll County.
So are you seeing the numbers increase as far as the number of youth here in Carroll County of color being involved?
Definitely. I think that on our U.S. national team, which is the highest level of play, on our women's side, we have 4 or 5 girls from Carroll County that are on this national team. And that group is from all over the country. So to see kids from Carroll County playing at the highest level, and I believe Carroll County has about, I would say, the largest number of kids participating on that national team than the country. So that's a true testament of how the game's grown, particularly in Carroll County, is that we're seeing kids from Westminster High School and from Century High School participating at this high level. And, they've known each other since they were in the Tigers leagues growing up to now competing for America, which is great to see, and great to see how it's grown in such a short amount of time, considering how terrible we were when we were at the youth age, but then seeing it progress to such a high level now, which is great.
Again, it sounds very, very interesting, and as I've listened to your comments, I can hear that initially you didn't consider yourself to be a trailblazer, but certainly one who's benefited from the trailblazers who have gone before you. And I would say that that certainly still is the case, but I can also hear how you are out there blazing the path, blazing that trail for other youth now to be involved in this sport. And I can hear that you hold lacrosse near and dear to your heart.
I do. Trying to blaze the trail, but I have big shoes to fill. So until I feel like I'm getting close to what those have done before me, then, I'll start to put myself in their league in a sense.
Well, again, you're keeping that as a high goal, and again, it sounds like you're well on your way to achieving that. So now, is there anything else that you would like to share this morning as far as your contributions and as far as our youth here in Carroll County, or blazing the trail here in Carroll County?
Biggest thing for me is just getting the word out there that lacrosse is for everyone, and it's a sport that really can open up doors for you if you're thinking about playing at the high school or the college level. There's just great opportunities there that you might not find traditionally in other sports, because the sport is growing so quickly and colleges are adapting lacrosse at a rather rapid pace. So there's opportunity for you to get some financial aid. There's opportunity for you to come into a school environment and have 25 friends right away. So it's just the idea of engaging these groups and making sure they know that there's opportunities outside of what traditionally they might find in their different avenues, but just venturing out, thinking of doing something different, and understanding that there are valuable experiences with participating in sport and doing something outside the traditional mold. That's definitely something I try to relay all the time at my job, but just continuing to let people know that they can be the next person to set out and do something different, and there's a lot of reward and specialness in that. So.
Thank you very much for sharing with us.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you.
You're welcome.